Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. I'm very excited to announce that the inaugural Landscape Photography World Awards launches today. Early bird entry is available now at a discounted fee until September 30, 2022. Head to landscapephotographyworldawards.com to find out all the details and how to enter. There's some amazing prizes to be won, and I'll be publishing a book and a calendar with the top images from the competition, so plenty to look forward to. Entries close on November 30th, 2022, so there's plenty of time to get your entries sorted. Anyway, on with the show. This time I'll be talking to Joel Fitzgibbon about his amazing landscape and motorsport photography. Joel is a photographer from the central coast of New South Wales, and his journey started slightly differently to some other photographers. Buying a drone before he'd bought his first camera. Being attuned to the fast pace of motorsport, he also found an interest in landscape photography that he used to improve his craft and develop the skills he hadn't explored before. We talk about his photography history, how shifting between motorsport and landscape photography has helped him develop his style, and how he's dealing with becoming less interested in landscapes. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey Joel, welcome to the Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, that's an absolute pleasure, mate. I know you and I have met a couple of times on shoots and whatever, but, a lot of people probably don't know who you are. So why don't you tell them who you are and what you're doing on my podcast?
Well, firstly, thanks for the invite. Glad to join you, discuss my story and photography related story. So for those that don't know, my name is Joel Fitzgibbon. I go by the alias of Fitzy Images. I am a landscape and motorsports photographer / videographer, and I am 24 from the Central Coast. That's pretty well sums up my personal story.
So how'd you get started in photography at all?
Funnily enough, I actually started years ago through motorsports. So I used to race motocross competitively, and I used to go to some of the higher level state and national events, and used to do a little bit of photography on the side just for, a couple of me mates that were riding. And that's pretty well where it all kicked off from. And then a couple of years ago, I always had an interest in drones and drone technology, and got a drone and fell in love with it. And I was hooked, and then progressed up buying better gear and found out how expensive of a hobby it was. But
it's definitely an expensive addiction, I find.
Oh yeah, I don't know what's more expensive, motorsports or photography.
I reckon it's pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
So we were talking a little bit earlier, and you said you've sort of started to drift away a little bit from some of the landscape stuff. Why don't you tell me about that and, what's going on in, that motivation that may or may not be there for landscapes, and why the motivation might be stronger elsewhere.
So what I find is the biggest driving factor is lately just haven't really had any motivation to shoot. I'm a very creative sort of person. Like, I like to challenge myself to, essentially walk into a situation not knowing what I'll be able to do, sink or swim. So I've pretty well shot nearly every spot on the coast, Newcastle down the Central Coast. And I'm not a person that can do the rinse and repeat as such. I like to, again, I like to challenge myself and see what I can create. And I find that with landscape, it's just in the local area, it hasn't really been intriguing or challenging enough for me to want to shoot. So that's kind of the reasoning behind why I've sort of started putting more of a heavy emphasis on the motorsport side of thing. Which, it's a lot, like, for some people that haven't done it before, it may sound easy, but it's far from it. I find one of the biggest challenges is getting that shot, because the conditions. So this is an old expression an old saying from the motocross days. So generally we have about 40 riders on the gate.
Yep.
So the the saying goes, there's 40 riders on the gate, but there's 41 riders. The 41st being the track conditions, because it is a constantly changing. It's essentially a dynamic situation. So it always changes. And I find, especially with doing motorsports photography and videography, you don't get second chances. So for example, one of my good mates, Dylan Wood, he likes to get the bike a bit sideways, which is absolutely unreal behind a camera. But sometimes he doesn't throw them as wide as what he would the lap before or something like that. So it's a very, one-shot opportunity genre, which that challenge of, making sure I capture that shot I think that's what I really enjoy, just that challenge and, having to work with tricky conditions, especially on some of the longer days. So for example, the Nationals, which I have been doing quite a bit. So the first round was at Wonthaggi in Victoria, and we were shooting into the morning light, which from the landscape days, I was hating it. But that golden light that was showering the track, some people were able to capitalize on it and some people weren't. And I was one of them that was fortunate enough to be able to capitalize on that morning light, which some of the shots that I got from that day, hands down, are some of, if not the best shots I've ever taken across both genres. Yeah. So, so having to...
Sorry. Do you think that having that landscape experience has enhanced and helped your motorsport?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. So
how do you think the two have influenced one another?
I think one thing to take away from landscape is having to always constantly change settings and stuff like that. So you work with your environment. So as you would know quite well, some sunsets that we get, the lighting is very harsh and you have to adjust and, do a blend and stuff like that. But having that sort of pre-existing knowledge of, how to compose shots, the general rule of 1/3, that sort of stuff, as well as being able to adjust settings to be able to work with the light. That has definitely helped out massively. And I think had I not done landscape, it probably would have been a more tricky transition into motorsports. But don't get me wrong, I still love doing landscape photography, but at this current point in time, my main goal is to continue building on the motorsport side of things, and also, going out there and having fun.
Sure.
I think that's one other big factor as well, is a lot of the boys that I do take photos of, I used to race with myself. So it's a bit of a camaraderie. We're always having a laugh, and it's just a nice environment to be in. And not to mention the race fuel and some of the bigger events, that stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. So I guess in terms of your landscape stuff, that came after when you started photographing your motorsports, I take it. And so how do you think the motorsports photography sort of influenced getting into the landscape side of things?
That's actually a bit of a tricky one. I wouldn't say that the motorsports, from when I was back racing, I wouldn't say that really had a heavy influence on giving landscape a crack. It was actually from my drone. So I kind of went the opposite way to a lot of people. I got a drone and then I got a camera, whereas a lot of people get a camera and then a drone. Yep. So I was always captivated with flight, and I can still remember so vividly the first time I took my drone up to Catherine Hill Bay. It was just watching it through a screen and just being able to fly around and just see things from a different perspective. That was what got me hooked. And I think that was what was the biggest driving factor behind giving landscape a crack, was just having a unique perspective and being able to look at things and see things differently to what others would. And, I still, even when I'm driving to work, so I just got a new job up in the mines in Singleton, so I get to drive up there
Yep.
an hour every day, which is great fun. But I find myself, especially, you know, when I'm starting, the sun's starting to rise, like I just find myself looking out the window and, you know, you see trees and
Sure.
windmills and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people would just see a tree or a windmill, but I see
You're
something
framing
that,
up comps. Yeah.
yes, yes. So I don't think that will ever go away.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's, as much as I love landscape, it's just at this current point in time, like where I am based out of, it's just, there's nothing that's really got there's nothing that really sort of motivates me enough to be able to go out and chase that sort of, or chase the shot. So like most of the shots that I've gotten on the coast, I've been happy with, and there's nothing that I would change. And again, touching on that sort of creative mindset, I can't, if I'm not having fun and challenging myself, I know that the products that I will produce are not going to be what I'm capable of.
Sure.
Whereas if I challenge myself and I'm having fun with it, I always look back at, you know, shoots and just go like, how did I manage this?
Yeah.
And it's just because, you know, I challenge myself and having fun with it.
So I guess one of the key things from the sounds of it is that, you know, you like that opportunistic type of shooting, that, you know,
yes,
there's stuff that comes along, you know, might be once in a day, might be once in a lifetime as well, you know.
yes,
and you know, you're not necessarily going to be able to get that shot unless you're there and you know, in the space at the right time.
yeah. A lot of so like I love astrophotography, and one of the things that was on my bucket list, which I actually got to tick off, funnily enough, through a bit of a work venture. I wanted to go to outback Australia,
Sure.
away from light pollution, you know, just in the middle of nowhere.
Yep, some real dark skies. Yep.
Oh yeah, and the first time, so I was actually doing a hot shot, so an urgent freight delivery with one of my good friends from Singleton to Lake Vermont coal mine, so in Dysart, Queensland.
Yep.
So we drove from Singleton right through to Dysart, and outside of Roma, in Queensland, we had to do a swap over just with the national heavy vehicle laws. And so as we're doing a swap over, I jumped out and I had my camera with me, and the sky, I will never forget that night. It was absolutely spectacular to just look up and just see the Milky Way so clear and so visible.
Yeah, amazing.
I wish I had more time to shoot up there, but unfortunately the 13-ton wheel assembly we had on couldn't wait. So yeah, the extra shots got put on the back burner. But I mean, I know what it's like out there now, and it's only sort of motivated me more to get out there and actually have fun out there and just chase some of the wildest astro shots that I can imagine.
Yeah. No, I definitely got to agree with you. Getting out into those real dark sky areas is phenomenal. And, you know, city people that have never sort of left the city, and I know that there are some people that do that, you know. It's amazing when you get them out into those spaces and show them what the sky actually really looks like, as opposed to what it looks like with a load of light pollution in it. And, you know, people just get blown away that there's so many stars.
Yeah, like I'm fortunate enough to have grown up sort of where I have. So sort of halfway between Sydney and Newcastle. So we do get some dark skies, but nowhere near as dark as what we had up in Queensland. And like there's been times where it's been, you know, clear night, really cold, just the perfect conditions for astro, and you look up and it's like, oh yeah, this looks really nice, you know, there's heaps of stars. And then when you go out with them same conditions to somewhere that has no light pollution whatsoever, it's mind-boggling just to see how many stars. And you know, how it, for me, I found that night just really reflected on how big the universe actually is. And I find it's going to sound a little bit strange, but I kind of find it a bit humbling in the aspect of there's so much going on out there that we are insignificant in comparison to how big the universe actually is. And like I said, it does sound a bit strange, but I find it very
not
humbling.
to me, mate.
I'm glad.
Yeah, not to me. I had that same sort of feeling. You look up there and you sort of go, okay, well then there's probably somewhere on a planet circling one of those stars that's looking up, and they're seeing us or
Thinking
our
the
sun,
same
maybe.
thing.
You know,
Yep.
if they're lucky, close enough.
Yep.
It is an incredible experience.
There is one thing that I would love to do, and it's high up on the bucket list. And unfortunately, with this new job, I won't be able to do it for a minimum of about 12 months.
Yeah.
I want to go to Iceland and see the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
Good.
I did Northern Lights in Canada a couple of years ago. Well, 2019 was December 2019, just before everything went to shit. And
great fun.
Yeah, but we were up there for 3 nights. First night was solid cloud. Second night was it's actually first night. There was a couple of breaks in the cloud, but a really weak aurora. You could just see a tiny bit of green that lasted 10 minutes. And so it was, not really able to be photographed well. You didn't have time to get set up and get everything lined up and get a good comp and everything, And then the second night was pretty much solid cloud again. The third day it was snowing all day and just socked in, and we thought it's just going to be a washout, and I thought I'd done my dough going up there. And anyway, it turned out about just before midnight it cleared up, and then about 1 a.m, I think it was, it just lit up, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And came away with it was my first time, so I don't think I know I could do it better. But came away with some great memories and some fairly memorable shots out of it, which was nice. But for me, that was definitely a highlight, getting up there into the Arctic. Bloody freezing though, middle of winter, minus 35. But loads of fun.
Yeah, my parents have been to Canada and Alaska and have seen it themselves. And very similar situation, actually. Total cloud cover. Not even if you were to look at it on the odds of it, it was pretty well zero. It was not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then same thing. Woke up about 1 a.m. and walked outside, and sure enough, there she was. So, and some of the photos that I've seen, my dad, he did have a camera with him, but he didn't really know how to do it. Or how to do the sort of long exposure, that sort of stuff. Some of the photos that he got, they were really nice, but it was one of them things where it's I wish I was there with better gear and also that knowledge as well of what to do. And I've always wanted to go to Iceland and Norway just for the Northern Lights. And then when J-Rod from Victoria, he went over, and I was following his story, his adventure pretty closely, and that was mind-boggling just to see how incredible Iceland is, especially for a landscape photographer. There's so many unique things over there that we don't get in Australia that you can shoot, and things like that. That's the sort of stuff that I love, that creative sort of, again, touching on that creative aspect. It's something that I've never done before, and it's something that drives me to want to do it. I was planning on doing a road trip to America in 2020, but we kind of all know what happened that year, and I wish that I did get to do it, because I was going to be going to Yosemite National Park, which I have been to before as a teenager with my parents. And I can still remember there's one section of the park. We come through a tunnel, and it comes basically right up to a valley, and that valley, just looking straight down into it, it's very similar to the Blue Mountains, but it just left me speechless. And I was I really want to come back here and visit it in winter, which I think now they've changed it around a little bit so that the park actually stays shut in winter, which is a bit unfortunate. But I mean, I'd probably be that one person that's either dumb enough or brave enough to give it a crack.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So I guess just talking about that motivation, I mean, you've talked a lot about the way that you're motivated by those unique experiences. I guess, how do you approach your photography, either the motorsport or landscape stuff, in terms of looking at it from an artistic perspective versus, capturing just the experience of being there? So, are you trying to create something that's as realistic as possible, or are you trying to, stretch the genre a little bit and move into something that's a little bit more artistic?
It's a bit of both. There have been some times where I've gone somewhere and I've seen something I liked, and it's like, you know what, I would really love to do, say, a composite or something like that. With the motorsports, I generally find myself walking the track if it's a track that I haven't been to before, just to get a bit of an idea of how to expect things to shape up. Some corners, for example, like if they rip it really deep, so they break the soil up, they'll get some nice deep ruts, and you can get the riders laying the bikes over in the ruts and stuff like that. With the motorsports, I generally try to walk the track if it's a new track that I haven't been to just get a bit of an idea of what to expect, and certain spots that I think will look nice. So most of the tracks that I normally shoot, so for example, Lakes, which is at Toronto, which funnily enough, my parents used to own. And then we've got Maitland, which I was at 2 weeks ago for the Nationals, and then Cessnock. And yep. I do go down and narrow a bit as well. But them tracks, like I've been to them for, so many years, like I know what works and where I want to be. Sometimes, again, if the conditions aren't that ideal. So, for example, Lakes, every time I go there, we generally have a lot of overcast cloud cover. So it's not really that ideal, but I'll change it up and try to work with the clouds, and some of the jumps that look basically up into the sky, like try to get a bit of a dramatic sort of a look to it. But with the landscape, I generally try to make it as realistic as possible. Some people aren't a big fan of vibrant colors, where I love my vibrant colors. So
sure.
Fortunately enough, like the system I use a Canon EOS R at the moment. Fortunately enough, the Canon color technology it's unbeatable. And just some of the colors that you're able to capture with the Canon color tech is just phenomenal. And the contrast between the colors as well is it's unreal. I generally don't do too much post processing to the colors, unless it's, say if it's an average sort of burn or an average sunrise or an average sunset, I might bump it up a little bit, but for the most part, the Canon color tech just takes over, and it always delivers the goods. So, so I generally try to go for as realistic as possible. Some situations I will try sort of tap into that artistic side of things, but for the most part, I generally go for a realistic look to it.
Yeah. Okay. How would you say your style has developed over time? Is it still developing, or are you sort of settled on what you like doing?
So I think it's a bit naive to say that, your style is like you've set with your style. Like I find it's a constant sort of game of, trying, like trial and error. Cameras are getting better and better every day. And, my EOS R versus the EOS R5 that I had a couple of weeks ago, like I can tell you right now, like if I was shooting landscape with the EOS R5, I would have to change so many things around just to be able to accommodate and maximize what that camera is capable of. So I generally have my foundations, if you will. So I have a bit of a idea of what I want, that sort of thing. So I generally don't trek too far away from my foundations, but I always like to try try different things, and again, just trial and error. See what try some settings. If it doesn't work, I'll revert to what I'm used to, or
sure.
Again, like I always like to sort of constantly learn and constantly develop on my skill set. And I think, the second that you stop learning is when I look at it that way. When you stop learning, that's when you start having your downfalls.
Yeah, totally.
So like I always sort of, again, have my foundation, but I'm open to exploring different techniques and that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool. How do you balance your full-time work and your photography? Obviously, working in the mines, they give you a fair amount of stuff to do. So how do you sort of balance that time?
Well, fortunately enough, I'm working at a mine that I think it's the only mine in, I could be wrong, it's the only mine in possibly New South Wales that does 8-hour shifts.
Oh, wow.
I'm very, very lucky there. So it's a Monday through to Friday roster. And one of my old firefighting captains, he was an OCE, so open cut examiner for one of the mines in the Hunter Valley.
Right.
And he growing up, he always taught me that, work is priority. Like, as much as I love doing photography and, getting out there and shooting sunrises and sunsets and that, work always comes first, because, it pays the bills. So That's generally how I look at it. Don't get me wrong, like I always check the forecast, and if there's a nice high cloud sunset that's coming in, I always try to get out and chase it. But if it's if I have to be up early or whatever, if it's going to affect work, I should probably say, if it's going to affect work, like I'll always sort of choose work over photography. And that's only because work pays the bills. So and the job that I got, I'm very fortunate to have been chosen for the role. So I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize that role.
Yeah, no, fair enough. In terms of the way that you shoot, do you think that's been influenced by where you live, particularly on the landscape side of things?
100%. I used to live at Guanlin. I've currently moved just because of work.
Yep.
So I used to live at Guanlin. So Catherine Bay, the coast, 10 minutes away. So I always found myself on the coastline. So seascape was one of the first sort of subcategories, if you will, that I picked up on.
Sure.
And if you scroll back through my feed, you'll see that there's a lot of seascape shots, and I've got a lot of seascape shots that I haven't posted, but I'm just trying to keep the feed in check to make it look a little bit more professional for some of the bigger brands in motorsports that have been doing work for. So, but I find myself on the coast most of the times, just because it's 10 minutes away to a lot of the best spots in the area. I also love going up to the mountains as well, but with the rain that we've had for the past 6 months, the roads have been terrible up there, so I haven't really been going up into the mountains. But in saying that, the rain that we have been getting has made the waterfalls pretty awesome. So I not too fond on shooting Summersby, just because it's very
overexposed.
Yes. So I generally try to find the little lesser known ones. So I generally find myself going to Giracal and just going for a trek and seeing what I can find.
The best part about that area, though, is that there's quite a lot of options.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's really hard to get something that's new and interesting at Summersby itself. But I did see an interesting one actually. I think it was Danny Watson posted, which was a pano, which sort of went from up the lower falls. So it was looking up towards the lower falls, and then panned down around and looked basically 180 degrees around down where the
right
was, which was something a bit different.
Yeah, I might actually have to have a look at that, because I'm actually quite intrigued by that.
Yeah.
I think one of the best waterfalls I've ever been to was Gap Creek in the Wattigans. I don't recommend doing the hike down to the bottom of the falls, especially with 20 kilo camera gear, because that was horrible.
It's the
But
one bad thing about waterfall photography is the hiking in and out of the valleys.
oh yeah, sometimes it's not too bad.
Yeah,
But,
some are better than others, definitely.
it's actually quite funny that I mentioned Gap Creek because I was actually up in the mountains for a sunset and could see some low cloud on the horizon. So that pretty well diminished any chances of it burning. And later on, I was right on that prediction. So I seen from one of my good friends that I used to go to school with a video of Gap Creek, and it was pumping. It was torrential. And I was like, I want to go check that out. And the road to get to the camp, like the campground, was shut, so I couldn't do that. And I was like, oh, I might walk down. And then when I found out it was about 400-meter elevation difference, I was like, I'm not going to do that. So I don't want to get me mountain goat on this time. So I sent her a message and just asked, what to look for. And she said that there was a big sandstone sort of amphitheater looking feature, and I was up at a lookout, and I was like, I could see something in the distance, and it looked very similar to what she was describing. So I had my drone with me and sent it over there, and that was absolutely spectacular. Like I think I was one of the first people to ever actually see that waterfall flowing with a drone, and a fairly substantial amount of water flowing over it as well. And that there's multiple cascades, and I got a couple of different photos, and I actually done a panorama of one. And it's, in terms of drone photography, it's probably the best photo I've ever taken, and I honestly don't think I'll be able to top that one. I would like to check out Ellenborough Falls, but just trying to find the time to get up there, and also timing it with the conditions. I want it to look as mean and as menacing as what it does. So, or as what is it?
It's a beauty when it's pumping. It's I mean, it's still even. I remember being up there when we were still in drought conditions, and there was still a fair amount of water off it. Not masses, but I reckon this year it'd just be absolutely massive.
Yeah.
The other thing, I've chased a couple of waterfalls that don't exist when it's dry. So they basically only exist when it's peeing down with rain.
Yep, I know of one near where I live. So it's funny that you mentioned going up that way in drought, because during the 2019-2020 bushfires, I was actually deployed to it was a fire called the Bees Nest Fire, which was at Dorrigo. And we got sent down to Ebor. Why? I have no idea. I don't even think they knew what they were doing at that stage. But so I went down to Ebor and checked out Ebor Falls, and that was a bit of an eye-opener, that one. Like, I've seen so many photos of Ebor Falls, throughout the years, and every photo I've seen or video, it's always had, a fairly substantial amount of water flowing over it.
Yeah.
And this time, like, it was a trickle, and that was a massive sort of eye-opener just to how bad the conditions were up there. But as you mentioned, like with this year, with how much rain we've gotten, and also how much rain is forecast for the next couple of months, Ebor is one that I want to check out again and actually see it, live up to its hype, essentially. But even like Ebor and even Waterfall Way, when the road is actually there and not washed away.
That is the problem with some of these places, is getting access into it. I mean, even up the Blue Mountains, they had the landslips there at Lura Cascades, so you couldn't get them, and that's got to be one of the easiest and most accessible waterfall walks in the country, I'd say. It was just completely inaccessible because the landslips that they'd had.
It's just, it's crazy to think, like, when landslips and stuff like that happen, it's just crazy to see what water does and how powerful it actually is. So like with the floods that happened only recently, like I just made it out of Singleton by the skin of my teeth. Like that was pretty scary, that one.
Yeah,
but just the sheer volume and sheer power that was, that water possesses. Like I find that's one thing about waterfalls and seascape, just the sheer power of it all. And as you know, with seascape, like it can get hairy pretty quickly if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
It's been multiple times where I've been soaked and quite frankly put myself in some pretty dumb situations. But I mean, as long as I get a shot, I'm happy.
Yeah, it's not worth dying for, though, mate.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, when you talk about the power of water, I was down at the Nepean River down here, just north of Penrith.
Yep.
Last weekend, and there's an area there which is sort of just beyond the Victoria Bridge, probably, I don't know, 500-600 metres up from there, on the western bank, where the land gets a bit flattened out, and there must be at least 200-300 trees just, and I'm not talking about small saplings, I'm talking about trees that have been there for 50, 60, 100 years. They're just flattened, they're just lying down because the water's just pushed them over.
It's crazy, eh? So when, just to give you an idea of how bad it was in the Hunter Valley, so Wallumbye Brook, like I've never seen water that bad. And I've got a lot of mates that work up in the mines and for toll and stuff like that, and they go around everywhere up there, and just like how quickly the water came and just the sheer volume of it, like that was like nothing I've ever seen before. And when just before I got evacuated out of Singleton, I popped up to the levee and just had a quick look and just seen how bad things were getting. And about 2 hours later, the water had risen by at least 1.5 meters in that 2 hour time frame. And it's just, like it, like what 1.5 meters doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's already 12 meters and flooding lower lying areas of the Hunter River, it's just it's mind boggling.
Totally.
And even now, like driving over the bridge, so I got to drive over the Hunter River every day to go to work.
Yeah.
And you just look down to the river and just same thing, like some trees that were there before just clean snapped in half. Like it's
phenomenal. So what's your favourite shooting spot? Not to give any secret ones away, but where do you like to go? Or what do you keep going back to?
I find myself going back to Catherine Hill Bay. It is fairly overexposed.
It's a classic, but
it's a bit of a special area for me, just more so for personal and family reasons.
Sure.
So it's an area that I always find myself going back to, and there's not really a lot of compositions there that I want to chase anymore because I pretty well shot all of them. But I just find myself going back there more so on a spiritual sort of, it sounds pretty dumb, but more of a spiritual level. Like I feel like it's, Catherine Hill Bay to me resembles home.
Right.
So when I've been overseas and stuff like that, I've always found myself coming home and then going straight to Catherine Hill Bay and just kicking back on the beach, for a couple of hours. And it just, I don't know, it's on a spiritual level, that one for me. But Catherine Hill Bay, and there's also a couple of hidden spots in the Marmora State Conservation Area, which I'll want to keep to myself.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I don't blame you. That's fine. So what's the most memorable experience you've had out taking shots?
Where do I start? Do you want some bad experiences or some good ones?
Whatever you want. Bit of both. Good, bad, indifferent.
All right. So probably the worst one I've had. Middle of winter during a cold snap. So I went to the bogey hole. Yeah, the bogey hole. Sorry, I just had to think of what it was called. So I went to the bogey hole with Lee Taylor and a couple other guys from up in Newcastle, and we were chasing some pretty monster swell up there. And watching the sets come through, like I generally sit there for a good 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and just watch and just get a bit of a beat on what's going on. Anyway, so I was watching these sets come through. I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine. Anyway, so just brought brand new Tamron 2470 F28, and I was playing around with that. So I went down to the bogey hole and set up for a composition that I thought would look pretty cool. Big wave come through, and I was like, oh yeah, that'll be fine. And it's come through, washed straight across the bogey hole, so the bath there, hit the back of the cave and just exploded all over me. Like I was drenched. And that was probably the worst experience I've ever had, mainly for the fact that I just had a $2,500 lens just get absolutely soaked in salt water. And it was during a cold snap as well. So I was soaked and I had no warm clothes. And yeah, it was not fun. Definitely not fun, that one.
So you're definitely a seascaper then, because
oh yeah,
as I say, if you're not wet, you're not seascaping.
That's exactly right. I would say in some of the situations, I'm at almost Nat Finn level. But yeah, I've generally found seascape is probably the one that I've always had sort of bad experiences with. Another one was up at Anna Bay, again, like shooting with Lee and a couple other boys from up there.
Yep.
So some of the rocks up there, it's very similar to the Bay of Fires in Tasmania. Like it's got a bit of a mossy cover into it.
Sure.
I had a terrible night's sleep and I just wasn't in a good mood. Drove up and I was like, oh yeah, sunrise is all right. So I was walking around just sort of sussing out and just seeing what I'd like. I didn't know about the rocks at the time being covered in a moss that was extremely slippery. And I think I went arse over head probably about 5 times. And by the end of it, I was just tempted to throw my bag in the water and just walk away. I was like, nah, I'm done. I'm over this. And I think Lee probably remembers that one pretty well as well, which, yeah, he can verify how funny it was when I slipped over. So,
yeah. Gotta love a slippery rock.
it's great fun.
I went down to Terrigal. It's probably about 6 months ago now, January, February time, and did a dawn shoot up there, which came away with some nice shots. But before I got down there, I stepped on this black patch, which I couldn't see. Had my headlamp on, just couldn't see that this patch was black, and it's that that black slippery shit that and landed on my backside, and anyway dusted myself off and went and took photos. Anyway, my wife was sitting up in the car with a cup of coffee while I was doing the first set of shots, and she came down and she came up to me and I said to her, how you going? And she said, oh, not too good. I fell over. And she'd exactly the same patch. But she had the benefit of some daylight. I didn't see this.
See, in that sort of situation, that's when it's like, you know what? I've kind of redeemed myself because I wasn't the only one that done it.
Yeah, that's it.
I feel better about it. But I think I've only had one bad experience at Terrigal, and that was up on the Skillion. I was unofficially looking for whales off the coast. As you know, you're not allowed to, but anyway, I was doing it. And the lightning tower, or the lightning rod that they've got up the top there. Sorry, not the lightning rod, the weather station.
Yep.
That interfered with the drone's magnetics.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, that was horrible. Brand new Mavic 2 Pro. Launched it. Compass has just gone haywire. Everything's gone haywire. It's flying off out to sea, and I can't control it. I thought for sure it was done then, but somehow I got it back. Somehow. Still haven't quite figured out how I managed to get it back, but I got it back, so I was pretty happy about that one. But yeah, after that, I was almost permanently scarred of Terrigal Skillion. I was pretty worried about that one.
This was down in the gap between the Skillion and the headland.
Yeah.
That was where I slipped arse overhead.
Yep.
Anyway, so what's your routine when you getting out to shoot, and what are you looking for? What are you thinking about when you're setting up for a shot?
To be completely honest, I kind of go out with a clean slate. I have a bit of a general idea of what I want, but I don't really chase finite details. I don't really look for that sort of stuff. I go out, bit of a clean slate, just sort of have a bit of an idea. I want to do seascape. All right, I'll find something that I like, and yeah, a lot of the times, yeah, like the beaches are constantly changing, especially some of the ones around Newcastle lately, like with the swells that we've been having. So
Yeah. That's the same all up and down the coast. I was down at a beach the other day that's normally got 100 metres of sand between the seawall and the water, and the water's lapping at the seawall.
Yeah, things like that where it's a bit of a unique sort of, possibly a once in a lifetime sort of thing. Yep. I will go chase things like that. But for the most part, I generally, approach it with a bit of an open mind as to what, go there, see what I can, see what I can see. If I find something that I like, I'll shoot it. And if it's a composition that I really like, or for example, some of the places I've been to, shooting the seascape, like there's been certain rock formations where the sun can peek through and you get nice little sun flares, things like that. If I know that I can get that, I'll stick with it.
Sure.
But generally, I tend to wander a little bit. So if I go out shooting, say I'll choose a general location, so I'll just say Catherine Hill Bay, for example. I always sort of trace the common composites. Not composites, composition, sorry. But then I generally, once I've got one or two shots, all right, sweet, I'll go chase something else. I'll go try find something different, something new, or something I haven't done for a very long time. I generally try to approach it with a bit of an open mind as to what's on offer.
So you spending much time planning a shoot beforehand, or do you just sort of look at the forecast and go?
To be honest, most of the times I just wing it.
That's fine. Some people are right into intricate planning and they're working out. Oh yeah, well if I get there at this time of year and this weekend, I've got the moonrise over this building and all those sorts of things. I'm not one of those either. I'm more of a wing it guy.
Yeah, again, it depends on what I want. So some shots, for example, moonrise, like there's one that I've wanted to do at Nora Head, but every time we've had a a new moon at Nora Head, it's always not really worked out, whether it be, clouds or whatever. But like things like that, I will, sit there and pre-plan. Most of the sunrise and sunsets, again, like I'll sort of jump on and have a look at the forecast just for the high clouds or that sort of stuff. Ideally, I like to chase inversion layers just because it hangs around for a lot longer. Absolutely. But again, it just depends on what I'm doing. So at the moment, with I start at 6:30 in the morning up in Singleton, so I don't really have that opportunity to be able to shoot sunrise at the moment. So I don't even bother looking at what the forecast will be like for sunrise, because I can guarantee I'll be behind either the wheel of a dump truck or a loader or something like that. But don't get me wrong, it is pretty nice in some of the pits, but especially when you're backed up under an 800-ton excavator. But
have you done any photography around the mine, or is that just not? Can't do it.
It's a very grey area. I would love to do it. One of the boys in tech services, he's got a Phantom 4 and he actually films all the blasting.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I was like, I want to bring up my Mavic 3 with these 120 frames and actually do a super slow-mo of a blast. He's like, yeah, let me know. I'll bring it up and we'll go for it. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. But
hasn't happened.
Yeah. Well, I got to watch one go off on Friday. That was bloody unreal. I'll straight up say it was unreal. Yeah. Just to watch. It wasn't a big throw one, so this was a through seam. So it's a little bit on. Most of the ones that they do up in the valley are big throw ones, but you can do through seam ones. But we generally try to avoid it because we can actually ignite the coal seam on fire, which is not good. Oh no, it's not fun. So this one, it was a through seam, and just to watch the material, it was almost like a wave. Just watch it rise and fall, and then you feel the vibrations and the boom, and that was pretty awesome to watch. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I would love to get the drone up and actually do some film, or to film a blast, and also just do some general filming, which, I mean, down the track, I might even, see if we can do a bit of a training sort of video, that sort of thing. But one thing I would very much love to do, especially at my site, is photograph some of the rehabilitation work that's been going on.
Yeah.
There was one section that we've done that's been rehabilitated, and honestly, if you put on a blindfold and walked into it and just took the blindfold off, you wouldn't even know you were on what was an old coal mine. So I would love to do a little bit of sort of, photography and that sort of stuff. And also I want to get a photo of our big 9800 excavator, because that thing is just a beast.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately that's probably going to be a couple months away, just until I get to know everyone up there a little bit better, and they get to know me a bit better.
So, are there any particular, photographers or tutorials that you've sort of followed that you learned from? I mean, how did you sort of pick up your photography? You said you started with drones and whatever.
Yep.
Are you self-taught, or did you go and do some courses, or you just sort of picked it up as you're going along?
A lot of it is self-taught. Again, this just touches back to that trial and error. So, trying things and see if it works. If it doesn't work, change it up, and, learn from your mistakes. That's how I approach photography is, you learn from your mistakes. If you, overexpose something, all right, well, you can change it next time, that sort of thing. But a couple of my big sort of influences, one of my good mates, Denny Mulmedia, he, earlier on in the days, like, he was one of my big sort of, I wouldn't say influences, but he sort of showcased what a drone is actually capable of doing. And I've been fortunate enough to become good friends with him, and we've been able to go out and shoot and stuff like that together. And just he's got so much knowledge about drones. It's unbelievable. So he's one of the bigger influences, and sort of inspired me to pick up my drone photography. But yeah, I follow a lot of people. J-Rod is another big one. I find his style is it's unique. He always, just every post he has is just an absolute groundbreaker. Like, I know for a fact, like, there's always going to be, you go out on shoot and stuff like that, you get that one groundbreaker, and then you get 10 other, crappy photos that you probably won't post them, but he always just seems to have banger after banger. And it's just, that's another big sort of inspiration, like, just, that quality. And I firmly believe that it's a game of quality over quantity. It's all well and good to take 100 photos, but if you can get that one shot, or if you can get that one photo in 5 shots, for example,
yep,
like, that's how I sort of look at it. But for the video and the motorsport side of things, Tom Noske is one of my big influences. Just, he also, like, he does more so filming than stills, but same thing, like, a lot of the techniques and a lot of the color grading, that sort of stuff, you can take across into stills and photography as well. So he's one of my main influences for color grading, that sort of stuff. But apart from that, there's not really anyone else in Australia that sort of provides a massive influence to myself. There are a couple of people overseas, like, for example, there's one guy in San Francisco, Cody Meyer.
Yep.
And some of the shots that I've seen from him, like, the fog in San Francisco, it's just unbelievable. But again, like, that, a lot of that is locale. We don't really have heavy fog like what they get in San Francisco and things like that. But there's a couple of people that I do take a big shine to sort of improve on my own photography, and again, just try to be better and try to improve on things and try to learn new things. So
Yeah, fair enough. What about your processing workflow? What does that look like? And again, not looking for any secret sauce elements or anything, but in general, what are you straight off the camera onto the computer and edit as quick as you can, or do you let things gestate for a while and think about it before you get into it?
Generally, I try to just get straight into it. There's been, some times where like I haven't been able to because of a work commitment or something like that. But for the most part, I generally try to get straight onto it. I don't really have, to be honest, my workflow is probably my biggest downfall.
Yeah.
I've got a workflow in place for motorsports. So, like, for the nationals, for example, when I'm taking photos, 10, 15 riders, like I've got a bit of a workflow there, which has definitely made things a lot easier on that, like that side of thing, or that side of photography. But for landscape, I don't really have that much of a workflow, which is, it's not I know it's something that I can improve on, but I just haven't really found anything that sort of works for me, if that makes sense. I don't have presets. I'll straight up say I don't have presets. I find that with some presets, like some work, but most of the time they don't, for me at least. So I go through and edit photos. So for example, if I go to a sunrise shoot where, there's a lot of magenta or something like that, I'll go through and edit to, sometimes I find magenta can be a little bit overpowering. So I might change that color around a little bit so it's a bit more of an orange instead of a magenta. Things like that. I generally go through and edit a photo, and then if I like how that looks, I'll copy and paste that sort of them settings to the next light. But I always go through and generally tweak little bits and bobs. But yeah, it's something that I definitely need to improve on.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty big on self-criticism and being able to sort of look at how I do things, like take a bit of a step back and just see how things are going, and like, this is an area that I can improve on, or this is an area that I don't need to improve on. Like I can focus on improving in other areas. So workflow is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Okay. So what about, how long would you spend on a shot before you're happy with it, or does that really depend? Obviously, if you nail something in camera, which for me is rare, it shouldn't take too long. But how long are you normally sort of spending on a composition or on a shot?
You pretty well said it. Like it depends. It just depends. So, for example, there's been a couple of shots that I've been to where I've had to do a lot of spot removal. So, spot removal, as it takes a lot of time. So things like that do take a little bit longer. I think the longest I've spent on one shot is about 2 hours, but it was worth it. I'm very OCD with details when it comes to, again, like this is just, I like to produce the best quality that I can. Like I'd much rather put, one post out a month, but it be my best work versus, 100 posts in a month. So 100's a little bit too much, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I get it.
So it just depends really. There's been a couple of shots for example, one of my good friends down at Wonthaggi for the motocross, and I'll show you a photo of it a little bit later. It's Blake Fox so he's in the MX2 class, which they do first practice. So the first bike's out on track. And what they normally do a practice start, and then they'll do a sight lap and then come back in. No, they've changed it around. Sorry, that used to be the old way. So what they'll do a practice start, all the bikes will take off, and then they'll all come back in and line back up again, and then do another practice start, and then start doing their practice and qualifying.
Yeah.
And I got a photo of him just with that. The dirt down at Wonthaggi was a very good mix of river sand, like your nice alluvial soils and your river sand. It was just unbelievable to take photos of. Like it was so, just the contrast between the colors of the bikes and the gear and stuff like that, and this dark, nice loamy soil.
Yeah.
And in this particular shot, you've just got that nice golden light coming in from your golden hour, and then you've got just the vibrant colors of the bike and his gear, and it's just, I took that photo was pretty well straight off camera, and I was in love with it. It was just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been other shots that have taken a lot more editing. So I'm just trying to think of a recent one. Sorry. So for example, the one that I took out in the outback of Queensland, the Astro shot, I spent a lot more time on that one because I didn't have a lot of time, I wasn't able to shoot a longer exposure so drop the ISO down massively, and I can expose the truck and the foreground more appropriately. So unfortunately, I had to just run at a high ISO, which, as you know, when you put it into post, it does pop up pretty grainy in certain areas. You get a lot of noise and that sort of stuff. So I spent a lot more time on that, just trying to drown out as much noise as possible without, making it too obvious. So that took a lot longer to do. But yeah, it just depends on, what I get. So
yeah, cool. What do you see as being the biggest challenge facing photographers at the moment?
I think so. There's a couple of things, to be completely honest. Yeah, we are losing a lot of nature, sort of nature-based spots, just through development, that sort of stuff. So I know personally, for example, like Catherine Hill Bay, I'll touch on that again. Like, they've just built a massive housing estate there, and before used to be able to sort of, like, it was an old coal mine, so it wasn't natural as such, but it looked a hell of a lot better than what it does with 150 houses there. So
I know what you mean.
Yes, I think that is one big challenge for photographers at the moment, especially for landscape. Just with the development that's going on, like, you can't stop development as much as you wish and plead. It's not like it's always going to happen. So, things like that is pretty hard, as well as certain areas of national parks and stuff like that being locked up, and certain famous spots being locked up just because for example, Helensburgh glowworm tunnel. Like, I seen a video of someone going there doing a steel wool spin. Like, when I seen that, I just thought to myself, like, how dumb can you be?
Yeah.
Like, how selfish and how dumb can you be? Like, they're glowworms that are they're sensitive to light, and you go there and throw molten chunks of steel wool at them. Like,
yeah.
And then as a result, the whole tunnel got locked off. So
that's right. Yeah.
I do find that it's as much like it's kind of funny because social media is our biggest it's our biggest platform. There are some people out there that I know of that stay away from the whole social media and just do like word of mouth and farmers markets, that sort of stuff, which, don't get me wrong, I think that's bloody brilliant. But
yeah, if you can make it work for you financially, it's fine.
Yeah, I would love to give it a crack, but I just don't have the time with work and other commitments. But I find social media is probably our biggest downfall as well, because like Wedding Cake Rock, this is a classic one. Like, it's a beautiful spot, and under certain certain conditions, just that white rock and just the leading lines in it they're phenomenal. But now that whole area is all closed off because it's become so popular on social media that every man and their dog, Tom, Dick, and Harry go there, and as a result, it's fractured even more, and now it's actually in danger of collapsing into the sea and being lost forever.
Yeah.
So I think social media is definitely our biggest downfall, as well as I think one other big thing as well is I haven't seen too much of it lately, but there are a couple of people, and I'm not going to mention names because it's not really a good place to do it. There's a couple of people, like, I can remember there was an argument or not so much as an argument, there was a big sort of blow up on social media about two guys in Sydney.
Yep.
Like, I think that, to be completely honest, I think a lot of it has to do with jealousy.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, don't get me wrong, so for example, like, say Denny, he's down at Bermuda this weekend. Like, I would have loved to have gone down there, but work is more of a priority to me at this current point in time. I seen a photo of him a photo that he put up from Bermuda, and I was like, God damn, that's so sick. Like, I'm actually jealous I'm not there. But yeah, then I thought about it. I was like, that's like when someone gets, some people, when they see someone else get a shot that they really want, they do become quite bitter.
Yeah.
And I think, social media is bad for that, especially nowadays. Like it wasn't too bad a couple of years ago, but I find it has gotten worse over the years with just more so, like a lot of brands are, as you know, now starting to sort of push more so on the social media side of things. So, I think that a bit of a rivalry sort of, that might be in a more appropriate word. The rivalries that have sort of kicked off has definitely been a challenge, and like I've had my own personal rivalries as well. I'm not proud to admit that, and it has cost in some aspects. It has cost friendships and stuff like that. But like it sucks. But I've tried to let things go, and I think taking that step back and just being able to appreciate what other people create, and being happy for them. I think that's probably the best mentality to have. Support one another. Like, for example, totally. I may see a shot that I don't like. Like I could be, very picky about like, oh, I don't like this composition or whatever. But, I think it's pretty rude to comment on things like that. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I've had my own.
Bit different if someone's asking for critique.
Oh, definitely.
If somebody's put something out there and said, critique this, tell me what's wrong with it,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to accept some feedback if
100%.
If I'm just putting my work out there and somebody comes along and says, oh, well, you've screwed this up, and it's like, so what?
It's a bit of a slap in the face.
I didn't ask you to comment, and
that's right.
I'm not likely to go and comment on somebody else's work in that way either, unless I've been invited to. And if I've been invited to, I'd do it in a way where the feedback's constructive,
Yeah.
I almost always term it as if I was doing it, here's what I would do, as opposed to that's wrong, Yeah,
100%. Like I don't know if you remember, I can't even remember how long ago it was now. I posted a composite that I'd done down overlooking Sydney, because I think that was the period when we were having some pretty wild storms down there.
Yeah.
So I posted a composite, which I thought was pretty fitting. And like, when I do my composites, I try to make them look as realistic as possible. So, balancing the lighting and all that sort of stuff. But this one, like, I didn't really put too much emphasis on trying to make it look realistic. I was more so going for that sort of end of days look. And like, it blew up, and when, I had a lot of people like saying, I love the art, like the creativity, and 90% of people were pretty stoked, like that they've never, and some of them were like, oh damn, why didn't I think of this before? And then you get that 10% that's, oh, this is shit, this is terrible, that sort of stuff. It's like, I sort of look at that and I'm like, I don't really care, because it was more so, it was something that I wanted to create. Like, I was. But if, say, for example, as you said, like if I ask for criticism, if someone's like, oh, this is just shit, well, it's like, it's a big slap in the face. Like, well, I'm asking for criticism. That's not really criticism. That's just downright being, being nasty.
That's it.
So, but,
I do think that, some of it's just jealousy, as you said, particularly if, a shot blows up and gets a lot of attention, people sometimes get a bit jealous of that.
Definitely.
I mean, I've been fairly lucky. Not much of my stuff has blown up.
I can relate now.
I'm totally fine about that, because I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm putting out the work that I enjoy making. And
say, like, ultimately, that's the most important thing. Like, if you are having fun, if you're having fun doing it, then who cares? Like, obviously, a lot of people, blame stuff on the Instagram algorithm, which to some degree is right, because, I've had for example, I've had a reel that I posted, 6 weeks ago, overnight, got like 100 likes on it. I'm like, how does this work? Like, it's 6 weeks old. So to some degree, like the Instagram algorithm does have a lot to do with it, but ultimately, like, if I'm having, say, for example, like when I go out shooting with the boys, so if I go to one of my mates' properties, or we go to a private riding school. So one of my good friends, he's got his own track and he does his own coaching out Buchanan.
Yep.
And like I go out there and, I'm having fun there. So even if if the lighting's terrible, if I'm not getting my shots, that sort of stuff, if I'm out there having fun with the boys, having a laugh, like ultimately I'm happy to post things like that because, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I think that's one big thing to take away from, and I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people should sort of try to get into the mindset of, like, a lot of people like, delete. I've seen people, for example, delete photos because it hasn't got over X amount of likes in X amount of time. It's like, but why? Like, did you have fun shooting it and creating it? Yes. And why should you care about your likes?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the,
I've never understood I get if you're a professional brand that, curating your, your feed or curating your page is probably worth doing to a certain extent, but should you be doing it because of the number of likes it's got, or should you be doing it because it's a good, and it's a very subjective thing, or
100%.
And for me, if it's a good image, it stays there regardless of
100%
likes or 20,000. I don't care.
I went through just after, so like my Instagram handle before was just 50 and my race number 240, and I stuck with that for years. And then when I started doing more so professional side of things, like doing paid shoots and that handle wasn't appropriate. So I went through and I got rid of a lot of photos that I didn't like. A lot of them, some of them had 500 plus likes, but if I wasn't, like, what I was aiming for was something that showed my best work. So for example, this was one of my worst traits, which I thankfully kicked. I did get sucked into that quantity over quality. And it's funny that I mentioned it earlier that I'm big on it now because I was sucked into that loophole. And I went through and I deleted. So I think I deleted about 100 posts because looking back on it, I was like, it's not my best quality work. And this was just, in that time frame where it's like, I've got to post X amount of posts every 2 days, that sort of thing. And there was a lot of pressure there to go shoot, and I found that I wasn't having fun doing it. I wasn't enjoying myself, and I wasn't enjoying the products that I was creating. So, then I had a bit of the only way I can describe it is a bit of a midlife crisis with my photography. And one of my good mates, he asked me if I was going out to Maitland for the Pro MX, so the Nationals, and that's where it all started. Like, it was funny because I had a couple of riders, so some of the top tier riders in Australia see some of my some of my posts and some of the photos that I was getting, and they're like, "How long have you been doing this for?" I said to them that Maitland Pro MX last year, so 2 weeks ago, well, 1 year, 2 weeks ago, was the first time I'd ever actually shot in motorsports on a professional camera.
Yep.
And all of them were just gobsmacked at how good the quality of it.
Yeah.
And that, same thing. I was going through, I can only describe it as a midlife crisis. It sounds so dumb, but I went through that sort of. That was when I was kicking that sort of quantity over quality, and that's when I really started putting more emphasis on just chasing the best quality, and making sure that what I do put out is the best of the best. And I may not get the likes that I'm doing because I may not get the likes that I was getting before because I'm not posting as much, so my post gets shown sort of lower in the feed. But ultimately, I couldn't care. I couldn't give two shits about the like because I'm happy to that I produce that content. And a lot of the brands that I've been doing work for, so for example, like I've been shooting for Fox and Yamaha and stuff like that, and KTM Newcastle. KTM Newcastle was one of the big ones that sort of helped me get into it, working with these bigger brands. Like they're loving the products I'm producing, and it's just because I've sort of changed that mindset of, I've got to post. No, I want to be able to post the best quality shots when I can.
Yeah, totally. I absolutely 100% behind that. That's the only way to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Post the stuff that you're proud of, and just get on with it.
Yeah.
That said, if you are looking to grow your following and all that sort of thing, it's very difficult to do that unless you're a regular poster. So that's the trade-off, and that's, I guess, the dichotomy that you have with social media.
Yeah, like there's one guy in the motorsport side of the motorsports community, Mick Williams, so Postmoto.
Yep.
Like he doesn't. There's some other people in motorsports that have got big following, but the quality of their work, to me personally, is very average.
Yeah.
But then there's guys like, we all call him Posty. So guys like Posty, for example, his work, like if you've seen some of the quality of his work, like, some people may not necessarily understand what I'm talking about because it's motorsport, but the quality of work that he produces is hands down, it's probably the best in Australia.
Yeah.
And, like, again, I become good friends with him, just doing the circuits and stuff like that. And like he even agreed, like there's other people out there that got bigger followings, but if you're not producing the best quality content, then what's it matter if you've got, say, 20,000 followers, but you're only getting X amount of percentage of like your followers actually seeing you and liking the quality of content that you're producing. Whereas if you got, say, 3,000 followers, but you're getting, let's say, I know it would never happen, but let's say you got every one of them followers loved the work that you were doing, they're going to stay with you, and they're going to, I find that does help with the following as well. Like I've had a lot of people sort of showcase my work to some of their mates, and they've become, sort of your long-term loyal followers. But
absolutely,
I'd much prefer to have a smaller account, and again, post the best quality content that I can, rather than have, say, again, 20,000 followers. But I'm in that mindset of quantity over quality.
Totally. So are there any other photographers out there you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
Where do I start? I think we should do. I think you should do your own little episode.
I've done my intro. That's about all I want to say. Mind you, I was on somebody else's podcast the other day, so I'll tip you when that comes out in a couple of weeks, and you can have a listen.
Yeah, sounds good. There actually is one person. I didn't mention him before, but Ollie Hubbs. I'm going to start saying he's got something that a lot of people don't have, and it is absolutely unreal to see him do his thing. Yeah. He reminds me very much of J-Rod. Just what he shoots just maximizes the best out of it, and just always produces insanely good product. Yeah. I think it'd be pretty interesting to get him on the show and sort of see how he does things. I don't know if he'll be willing to share his secrets, which I'm not sucks, but
yeah, I'm just interested in what makes people tick and why they do what they do, and so I'd be very interested to talk to Ollie.
Yeah, I think he would. He'd definitely be one to sort of interview and see what his thoughts are, and see what sort of drives him and what motivates him to do what he does.
Yep.
He's definitely one of them ones where he just it's the quality that he gets is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
there's no other way to describe it.
Knows how to nail an image.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of jealous of how he's able to just clean up every time. Like every time he shoots, he always cleans up, and it's just it's a good kind of jealousy. But like it's just it's pretty cool just to watch him just clean up every time. So
totally,
I reckon get Denny on. I know he hosts his Drones Down Under podcast, but I reckon get him on.
Yeah,
get him on. Absolutely. I think he would be able to share a pretty unique landscape perspective, landscape drone photography perspective. So,
Yeah.
Especially like he does a lot of civil and industrial work with the drones as well. So it'd be pretty interesting. I reckon he'd be a good person to get on just to sort of dive into, what he looks for and why he loves doing landscape with the drones and stuff like that, and what sort of drives him to do it.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
But, apart from that, there's not really anyone else that I can think of off the top of my head at the moment.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for that. I've got one more question, and it's the most important one I think anyone can ask in life. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
I'm 50-50 on this. I find sometimes if you have too much pineapple, it's too overpowering. But if you don't have enough pineapple, it's kind of ruins it. So I'm 50-50 on that one, but I would have to say yes.
Okay, so you're ordering wine, yeah?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Deep pan.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's pretty much evenly split on the people I've spoken to so far. There's not much in it. But those that don't like it definitely don't like it.
I think they just don't know what's good for them.
I don't know what they're missing. Fair enough. All right, it's been absolutely brilliant.
No worries. Thanks for having us on.
Absolute pleasure. It's been fantastic spending some more time with you. And we'll have to organise a shoot at some point, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always keen.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll get in touch with you and we see what we can work out. Where can people find your work?
So I post mainly on just social media, so Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Fitzy Images. I also do post on Facebook, but I am more active on Instagram, just because that's where a lot more of my following is, if you will.
Sure, no problem. Oh, thanks again, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having us.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work and this podcast at gruntswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Don't forget to enter the Landscape Photography World Awards. This competition is open to all photographers worldwide and will feature some amazing prizes, and your work could be included in the book and calendar which is planned for creation at the end of the competition. Early bird entries are open until the end of September 2022. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.